Hey y'all, Jamie here. Proud 54-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off a couple of days ago, I had gotten in touch with my little sister Daphne. She was 14 at the time, and her and my mother had fallen out like me and my mother had when I was 14. Apparently, listen, my mother could not seem to raise a child past the age of 14 to save her life. Hell, she didn't even give birth to all the kids that she got pregnant with. And in fact, there's even, as far as her motherhood stuff goes, there was another baby that she had that she gave up for adoption who is way younger than me. Apparently, my stepfather had broken into the place where she was living with my two sisters, and he had SA'd her. And as a result, I had a third sister born named Danielle, who my mother kept till she was a month old and then gave up for adoption. Then she gave my other two sisters, Deanne and Daphne, up to foster care, and she gave me to my father. And I ended up living with my paternal grandmother for 3 years as a little kid and was separated from my sisters. Anyway, that's the backstory. So my sister and I get on the phone, and she was in Metairie at some people's house, and my mother had said, you look out for her. You're 18 now. So I told her that I was trans over the phone. And the first thing she said was, so what? You got a snatch now? And my response was, no, girl, not yet, but one day. And she kind of laughed, and she was like, so I'm just kind of curious, like, what do you mean? And I said, listen, you'll see for yourself. Where are you at? I need to come get you. I said, Mama wants me to look out for you. I said, come stay with me, girl. I said, I've got an apartment in the French Quarter, And then she told me she had a friend with her. And I was like, a friend? And she said, yeah, her name's Vicky. I was like, okay, well, you know what? Bring Vicky too. Now keep in mind, me and Terry and Bobby Joe, it was 3 of us already sharing a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. So anyway, I went and picked up my sister and Vicky at this house in Metairie. And the first time my sister saw me looking more like this, she was floored. She was floored. She was like, oh my God, you actually look like a girl. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of the point, And I met her friend Vicky, and they got in the car. I introduced them to Terry. She had gone with me. And they got in the car with us, and we rode back to the city, back to our apartment. And went back home, and Bobby Joe was waiting there for us, and she got introduced to my sister. And of course, Bobby Joe is one of those people that everybody she meets just falls in love with her. She just has one of those personalities. Like, I didn't at first, obviously, y'all know that story, but most people, when they meet Bobby Joe, fall absolutely in love with her. She's got a very country attitude that's very down to earth. And anyway, so we were settling in with my sister and her friend Vicky, and my sister said, so are y'all cool? And we were like, yeah, girl, we're cool. Why? She pulled out a bunch of hits of acid. Yeah, acid. She had it on her. And I was like, girl, and I was trying to be big sister. Like, last time I'd seen her, she was like 10 years old the last time I'd seen her. And I was like, no, girl, no, And she was like, Miss Thing, look, she didn't say Miss Thing, but she was like, look, girl, you're not going to tell me what to do. That's why I left Debbie Negrato's house. That was my mother's name. And she said, that's why I left her house, and if you're going to sit there and try to tell me what to do, I can just go back to Metairie now. And then she was like, don't be a hypocrite. You just said you were cool and you party, so don't be a hypocrite. Didn't you leave at 14? And she had me dead to rights. And so, as wrong as it was, me and Terry and Bobby Joe did acid with 2 14-year-old girls, my sister and her friend Vicky. Sure did. And then the 5 of us proceeded to go out in the quarter that night, tripping balls on acid, and we were on Decatur Street where all of the straight bars were, because I really didn't want to take my sister over to the gay bar area yet. And we ended up in a couple of different, like, Jules, and, well, Jules wasn't a straight bar, but anyway, we ended up in Jules, which was actually a notorious little leather bar over on Decatur Street, and it was in the middle of a bunch of straight bars, but Jules was there, and it was one of those gay bars that they had a bathtub in the men's room, You know, if you don't know what that was for, child, you're obviously not really a wild child. So we're sitting there and we're tripping our brains out and we're drinking pitchers of beer. And these guys walked in, and they started flirting with me and Terry at first. And then my sister and Vicky had been playing pool in the back of the bar. And they came out to the front of the bar by me and Terry. And these guys saw my sister. And my sister is gorgeous. I'm not going to lie. My sister is gorgeous. She looks like my mother, and my mother was a beautiful woman. And I don't really look like them. I look more like my father. But yeah, my sister looks exactly like my mother and like a carbon copy. And people go up over her. So this guy was like, hey, baby, hey, baby. And I went the fuck off. I jumped up in his face and I shoved him back against the pinball machine that was right there as hard as I could. And I said, listen here, you son of a bitch. She is jailbait. Jailbait. Do you hear me? And if y'all want to know what happened next, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow and I will too. I love you all. I love you all for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.